Hail, hail. Welcome back to room 1-on-1 for the Homeboys. Been a wee while since my last effort, but we're back with a bang ahead of a massive game in the Champions League as Celtic host Belgian Giants Club Bruge. But before I introduce my guest for the evening, let's have a wee look at the club. Now, started by students from the Catholic school Broders Javierinen, a neutral school, Konjik and Thudium, joined together to form the Bruges Football Club in 1880. However, that entity was rechristened Bruges FC on the 13th of November 1981, and that it's seen as the official foundation date of the club, making them 132-year-old. Splits and disagreements happen along the way, but the club is officially renamed Club Brugge KV in 1972, adopting blue and black as a club colours. These colours have adorned the club crest ever since, always topped by a crown, generally representing the club's official name, Club Brugge Klonjik Football Club. Club Brugge Royal Football Club for us guys. They play their games at home at the Jan Bretel Stadium in the St. Adria's region of the city with a capacity of 29,062. So now that's out of the way, I am delighted to welcome to the show a member of the Klokke podcast, Hans Noyelle. Hans, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine. Thank you for the invitation, Scott. So thank you for that.
I hope I didn't bastardize the words too badly. I tried my best.
No, these Dutch names and words are a hell to a Scottish man like you. So I fully understand. I appreciate the effort. So well done.
Well done. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, Hans, it's a wee tradition on our show that the new guests come on and they tell us a wee bit about themselves, just what they're all about. So could you tell me, who is Hans Noyelle? Why does he support Club Bruges? And tell us a wee bit about the podcast.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm 58 years old. I have been following the blue and black side of Bruges for over 40 years. I'm a long life season ticket holder. Celtic away will be my 76th European away game.
Wow. Wow.
My first one was back in 1984 at the City Ground, Nottingham Forest.
Fantastic.
And ever since, I've been following Bruges all around Europe.
Living the dream, Hans. Living the dream.
Living the dream, because over the last 10 years, we have been competing on the highest level of European football, which is the Champions League. And well, I would say on a yearly basis, I will travel 4 or 5 times a year nowadays at my age, because I can afford it. Before, obviously, when I was younger, then obviously I didn't have the money, the dough to travel around. But I basically do all away games now. And why did I become a Bruges fan? I was born in '66. And the high days of FC Bruges in Europe, we played 2 European finals back in the 70s, 76, 78, twice against the mighty Liverpool. And everyone at that time was watching the European broadcast games, because at that time, not a lot of football was being televised. So with my dad and my brothers, we watched all these European magic nights back in the 70s, and I just got in love with the blue and black side, and it's my longest love relationship. And I'm born a Bruges man, and I'll die a Bruges man. It's just a part of me. I just get to sleep and I wake up with Bruges in my head. I'm very passionate, and that's for what I am concerned. and I'm one of the 6 crew members of the Klokke podcast. So that's a podcast from fans to fans. So it's a fan-based
Yeah.
podcast. And basically, every single week on a Monday evening, we would record our episodes, and that's more or less 1 hour, 15 minutes discussing the previous games. And so we have a following of around 5,000 listeners and viewers. We're on both YouTube and Spotify, and and we started back 4 years ago, and we had 2 special guests of late. The managing director came
Wow.
to the show a few weeks ago, and last night we were happy to have the CEO of our foundation, of our academy rather, and our female team. That's more or less, I think, as an introduction. That's me and the Klokke podcast. I'd say.
Amazing, Hans. Amazing there. It seems I'm talking to the right man then. I mean, you know, you've got the history for it, sir. It was interesting. I done a wee bit of research on your European history and myself, and I noticed that you beat the European Cup final of '78, and that was Ken Dalglish scored at Wembley.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I actually think that might be the first connection between Club Brugge and Celtic would be that goal. But anyway,
Dalglish, yeah.
But that's really interesting about your podcast, because we're quite similar. We've got five guests, and we're all fans. We're all match going guys. But tell me this before we move on: would there be many Club Brugge fan podcasts out there?
Well, actually, Belgium is quite a small country. We only have 11,000 inhabitants. Well, yours is even smaller, Scotland, then. So I'd say that there are only 2 fan-based podcasts, and we are dividing the pie, so to speak. And we won't have an official one generated by the FC Bruges itself. So there are only these 2 podcasts, and one is in a Bruges dialect, which limits them in terms of the audience. We are using, say, the norm, the Flemish norm, the Dutch language, and so that's the difference between the 2, and we would attract a bit more viewers and listeners than our, well, I wouldn't say competitors, their colleagues.
Yeah, good man. That's really interesting, Hans. Thanks for that. Right, another wee tradition on the show for you, Hans. Just to give the kind of listeners an idea of how Bruges have got to this situation. I always like to have a wee look back at last season and just have a wee refresh. It's always nice for you, because it's generally, if it's a Champions League, we're talking about a winning season. So after the previous 4th place and disastrous appointments, I'm looking at you, Scott Parker. Former Celtic manager Ronnie Dyer was handed control for the season, and league-wise, for him anyway, wasn't great. Inconsistency was overall thoughts. However, a spell from November to the end of January with no losses from 9 made the league table a bit better viewing. However, when the regular season finished with a 2-1 defeat in Sint-Truiden, the team finished in 4th position. 30 games played, 14 wins, 9 draws, 7 losses, 62 goals scored, 29 conceded, 51 points on board, 18 points behind first place Union and 1 point behind third place Antwerp. You also had that 4-point buffer over 5, 6 and 7th place Cercle Bruges, thus qualifying for the Champions playoff. Now, I'll explain this, and I hope I get this correct, so feel free to correct me. The league splits with the top 6 play for the Championships and they play for the European places. Although, because they finished top, Union already claimed a Europa League spot. Was that correct?
Yeah. That's exactly correct, Scott.
In the Championship round, you then played each other a further twice.
Yeah, home and away.
The points are halved. Is that correct? Right.
So what's happened The format, our league format, is quite peculiar.
Mhm.
So we play 30 games in the regular competition, and after that, so after 30 games, you should qualify for the top 6 spots in order to uh, participate in the playoffs, as we call it.
Mhm.
But then at the end of these 30 games, which in theory can generate 90 points,
Mhm.
your points are halved. So that's why we had a difference of 18 points with the top, which was
Regular
Union.
season. Yeah.
So 18 divided by 2, we started the playoffs with a difference of 9 points. And there were 10 games to play, 6 teams participating,
Mhm.
5 times home, 5 away, 30 points to get to win. And we
You're already
managed,
9 behind.
so we were 9 behind with 30 to play for. And all of a sudden, we started winning, and the puzzle just fell into the right spot, and we clinched our 19th title, which was to all of us a big surprise because at the start of the playoffs, no one would have put £1 on the chances of Bruges clinching their 19th title. So that was quite an achievement, and we all celebrated it for days on the trot because that was so unexpected, and so we savored that one, and I think I was drunk for 2 days after that, after
Good
clinching the
man.
title. So
But to come back to that beforehand,
yeah,
a big decision was made.
yeah,
So after that final regular game, the club decided to part ways with Dahlia and
okay.
replace him with Nick Hayden.
Nicky Hyen.
Hayden,
Yeah,
sorry, we've
yeah, yeah,
spoken this.
yeah.
Nicky Hayden, he's a 44-year-old manager of the club's under 23 side Club NXT as caretaker. And as you just summarised, it worked out pretty well. So,
Unbelievable.
give me your thoughts on at that period, right?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you must have been kind of pessimistic. The way the league's finished almost
Mhm,
flat out.
mhm,
You've replaced the manager
mhm.
with this guy. I mean, were you thinking, yes, here we go, or was it?
Nah, not at all. Not at all, because Nicky Hyen was head of our youth team.
Mhm.
He had been coaching our team under 23 teams, so in the second division. And all of a sudden, because we had sacked already Dela, who you had as a coach
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
the Norwegian guy. Before the now he was, well, and before that we had Scott Parker, who
Uh,
came into Belgium without any knowledge of the Belgian league, and we he didn't adapt his way of thinking, and that was the Fulham and so he clinched the title in the championship with Fulham
that's
and
right.
with
Yep,
another.
yep.
Yeah. So anyway, that was quite a miscast, and Dela wasn't performing either. So Nicky Hine was an at interim coach. We
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, that's just because we were in a lost position, starting off the playoffs in fourth spot with no ambition whatsoever. But all of a sudden, we won the games, game after game, and the psychological effect of leading by 18 points like Union, then
Mm-hmm.
being halved to 9, then as a fourth place team, you get a boost. You think, maybe. And when you start winning the first game in the playoffs, second game, third game, fourth game, then you might think maybe there's still something in it for us. And that was exactly what happened, and this was so unexpectedly, and we enjoyed it to the full with a
Fantastic.
with a pitch invasion like in the 80s. Everyone, I reckon we had 29,000 capacity crowd. There were over 10,000 waiting outside. They just jumped over it, and 40,000 of us spilled on the pitch to celebrate this unexpected title. So this was quite a day, and what an achievement.
Hands, I've got hairs in the back of my neck with your story there. Well done. That's excellent. So quite a thing, right? In the Belgian Cup, an away win over Beerschot, 6-0, was followed by a 4-0 over Zoet Waregem. Another 1-0 away win over Ghent in the quarterfinals sent up a semi-final two-leg tie with Union. A 2-1 home win was followed by a late 2-0 away defeat. The clinching goal come in the 92nd minute, and they went on and won the trophy. In Europe, you spoke about it earlier on, so let's talk about that. That aforementioned fourth place finish under Scott Parker the previous season. So the team are placed in the second qualifying round for the UEFA Conference League. Comfortable 3-1 win over Aris of Denmark was followed by a 10-2 aggregate win over KA of Iceland. A tough tie in the playoffs as you drew Osasuna of La Liga. A great 2-1 away victory was followed by a 2-2 home draw and qualification for the groups. Now, in the groups, you were drawn with Bodo Glimt of Norway, Besiktas of Turkey, and Lugano of Switzerland. Bruges stormed this group. Opening day draw with the Turks, the only drop points, and a comfortable process in the last 16. Despite a 2-1 reverse in Molde, a 3-0 home win saw a trip to Greece up next, a 1-0 home win, and then a 2-0 away win saw you dreaming about a possible final appearance. However, it was another late strike as Fiorentina took the first leg 3-2 in Florence, and then a 1-1 draw in Bruges wasn't enough in the night, and they fell out at the second last hurdle. Fiorentina with another 85-minute equaliser to take them through. So, just in summary, right, so obviously the Cup, you fell at the semi-finals, but in Europe, you've just told me you've been playing at the top level of European football, but this, due to the bad season, you're in the Conference League. But my goodness, he's nearly went all the way to the final.
And actually, we enjoyed it because we were fed up with playing teams in Manchester, Paris, Dortmund, Madrid, always the same venues, always going to the same cities. We enjoyed Aalborg, we enjoyed Fiorentina, we enjoyed Thessaloniki, PAOK, we enjoyed Bodo, even top of Norway. And to us, all of us fans traveling abroad, that was quite we enjoyed it. It was a change. Yeah. It was a change too. Yeah. But having said that, we're quite happy to be back in the Champions League because obviously the media attention, this platform is in no comparison. Also, the financial consequences of playing in the Champions League. This is where a team like Bruges and Celtic should be in, and not in the Conference League. But it's quite a change, and we enjoyed it.
It's interesting you say that because ask any travelling Celtic fan, like so I've slowed down a bit. I generally get to 1, maybe 2 away games a season, European wise. But you're right, 3 seasons in a bounce, gone to Milan, Barcelona 5 times in a. You're going to these places and it's just going somewhere different and meeting different people. I totally agree with you. And that's how I think this kind of league thing has worked out pretty well for guys like yourself.
Exactly.
Seeing different places. Glasgow for the first time.
Yeah. Well, now at Sturm Graz, we had to play in Klagenfurt. I would never have traveled to Klagenfurt if it hadn't been for the game against Sturm Graz. I've been to play Bodo. I would never ever think of traveling to a place like Bodo, North Pole, very cold, -2 in November. But it was quite an adventure. Obviously, the amount of traveling fans was limited, because to places like Paris, Dortmund, you get an allocation of 3, 4, up to 7,000, and you fill the away end. But this is mass tourism, whereas Bodo, places like Bodo, we went to Iceland, a few hundred of us, very, very expensive to travel, but that's a nice feeling to be there just for the sake of this 90 minutes, and you're just enjoying yourselves and exploring the city and the food and the drinks, and so yes, it was a change, but happy to be back on the highest level of European football.
I agree with you. So let's go into this season. So, not surprisingly, the manager was appointed full-time on the 3rd of June. The championship meant that Bruges again would enter the Champions League proper and the first league phase of the tournament. So, Hans, I'm going to tell you to sit back and relax for a wee 5 minutes here, because I'm going to go through your transfers. So let's start with the outs, right? So Colombian midfielder Eder Balanta saw out his contract and headed home to America de Cali. Igor Thiago, the 23-year-old Brazilian forward, joined Brentford for a fee said to be around £31 million. A Pro League record sale. The forward scored 63 times in 178 games for the club. Ghanaian defender Dennis Odoi also finished his contract and joined rivals Antwerp. Japanese hopeful Shion Homa returned home to Urawa Red Diamond. Keeper Nick Shinton joined Beerschot. Antonio Nusa, the Norwegian international, left for Leipzig, and we played him recently. And the and 20-year-old Victor Barbera rejoined Barcelona youth team, all for undisclosed fees. Roman Yeremchuk left for Olympiacos for a fee around $2 million, and Fetut Mausa Sasa had his contract terminated after only 9 appearances for the club. Goalkeeper Joseph Burisic came to Scotland and joined Hibs on loan for the season, as Cisse Sandras joined in Willem II for the same duration. Philip Zinkermagel, the Danish winger, rejoined Bodo Glimt for his own loan spell. Now the ins. Norden Jakkers, the 27 former Belgian under-21 keeper, was signed from Levin for around €150 after a loan spell last season. Arden Jashari, a 22-year-old twice capped Swiss midfielder, was picked up from Luzerne, again for an undisclosed fee. Zaid Romero, a 24-year-old centre-back, was picked up from Estudiantes in his native home of Argentina for a fee said to be around €5.5 million. Christos Zolis, a 22-year-old Greek international winger, was signed from Norwich City for €6.6 million. He played last season for Fortuna Düsseldorf in the German Zweite Liga. €6.4 million was shelled out for the 27-year-old Swedish international forward Gustav Nilsson from rivals Union. The 7 times capped international scored 17 times last season in 49 games, and amazingly stands at 6'6". Hugo Squet returned to his homeland from Freiburg for a fee of around €3 million. The 22-year-old is one Belgian captain, plays right back. And finally, one for the future is Danny van den Heuvel, was signed from Leeds United and placed in the club's NXT team. The 21-year-old Dutch under-21 started his career at Den Haag, then Ajax, before joining Leeds. So, thoughts on the ins and outs. Who left that you were disappointed to see? Who were you glad to see the back of? And otherwise, coming in, who's impressed you?
Okay. Well, first of all, the centre forward who went to Brentford, Thiago, we got him from a smaller club at a fee of around 5 or 6 million. And really at the start of the season as a centre forward, we were moaning about him because he did not score, and after 3 months we were already looking for an alternative. Comes the winter transfer window, but then all of a sudden he started scoring, and by the end of the season, he was sold to Premier League London-based Brentford for a record fee of 37 million euros, which
Right.
in your currency is around 32. So we were sorry to see Thiago leave. He came from Ludogorets, by the way. So
Right.
that's
Okay.
the one. But being a Belgian team, you need these type of transfers in order to
Yeah.
get your balance right. So we buy in at a cheap price and we try to sell at a high price in order to get our balance right. Because if we miss out on the Champions League revenues, then obviously Conference League is not giving us the revenues as the Champions League. So we have to balance that out by selling likes like Thiago for a high lump or a sum of money. So that was on the outside going out. It was sorry to see the good man leave, but obviously financially wise, this was what we needed. On the incoming transfers, this Solis guy, the Greek international on the left as a left winger, is a very exciting player. He was when he was at PAOK Thessaloniki in Greece, he was sold to Norwich only to not be used there, or he couldn't adapt. Then he went on a loan to Düsseldorf in the second Bundesliga, as you rightly said. There he scored 25 or 27 goals, and Düsseldorf failed to get promotion, and we got him for a limited sum of 6 million, which is quite a bargain. Being
Right.
yeah, it's a bargain, and to me, it's the most important transfer of a last summer window season, alongside Yashari, who is a Swiss international. He is playing on the six, so in the midfield, defending midfielder, and he's only 21 years. He's a leader, and I reckon he will be. The next big
Right.
thing in
Yeah.
Bruges with the Solis guy. So these two were very exciting incoming transfers. Just to uh, get or to give you an answer to your question there.
Fantastic. Okay, so we'll open it up just a wee bit, and this is where your expertise is going to be tapped into, Hans. So squad wise,
Uh-huh.
obviously we would all know Simon Mignolet from his time in
Mhm.
England and when he represented the national team.
Uh-huh.
It looks like he's your number one. Obviously we know Derek Boyata, but he looks like his time's coming to an end with the club. So 32-year-old attacking midfielder Hans Vanaken. Would I go so far to call him a club legend?
He would be, because he has been with us for 10 years now, and he clinched six titles with us. So ever since he joined us, um, before that we were an outsider. We were a follower. We were really always an underdog, because Anderlecht dominated
Mm-hmm.
the Belgian league. Historically, we always had to compete against Anderlecht from Brussels, the capital,
Yeah.
and Standard Liège
Mm-hmm.
of the Walloon part of Belgium. So Bruges, Anderlecht, and Standard, these would be the three traditional uh, football clubs in Belgium with a nationwide fan base. Whereas
Right.
all
Yeah.
other teams, they are just one city teams, Ghent, Genk, Union. They only have their fan base in the area, so to speak. We have a national fan base like yourselves and your blue opponents there. So all of a sudden, when Hans came to Bruges, the board got changed as well. We started at that winning and clinching titles, because between 2005 and 2016 we didn't win any medal. Only one
Jeez.
cup in 2015. But our fan base, our season ticket holders, got from 12,000 in 2005 to 24,000 in 2016, because we were all longing for
Yeah.
success, and all of a sudden 24,000 season tickets. And ever since the last 10 years, it's a full capacity crowd every single home game with a waiting list. It's always full house at Bruges. And we started winning things 10 years ago. And over the last 9 years, we clinched 6 titles, and we're living the dream. We're really enjoying ourselves now, because now we are the market leader in Belgium. We are the number one team, and all of the other Standard is in the bad place nowadays. And the leg would have financial problems. So now the competition comes from Antwerp, Union, Ghent, Genk. But these would not be the traditional rivals. These are the upcoming rivals, and in time the likes of Anderlecht and Standard, they will come back to the level which they will, because the money will be there. Yeah. But Bruges has always been an underdog, a challenger, an outsider, and that was our force. But nowadays we have become the number one. We are the number one. We are the market leader. We now are viewed as seen as the number one, and this is quite a different approach coming from the press and also from other fans, because before 2015 we were a love brand. Everyone loved FC Bruges. Coca-Cola was the number one. FC Bruges was the number two. Ever since we started winning, clinching titles 10 years ago, nowadays we are the most hated club, because obviously the jealousy of the others, because now we're the number one. And that's really a change in approach, attitude coming from outside press. We are being criticized, and everything which happens now around the club is being scrutinized, and there is drama always. So it's a change in approach from underdog. Now we're market leader, and we're looked upon as the norm in Belgium. And Hans van Aken is the epitome of this major turnaround in the latest history decade of FC Bruges. Hans van Aken is the one in midfield who's distributing. It's your McGregor. I'd say he's really. So Hans has been winning 2 golden boots, which made him the best player in the Belgian competition, and only 2 players in the past managed 3 golden boots. And I'm convinced that comes January, Hans will also receive his 3rd boot as golden boot, as being the best player in the Belgian league, and he will become a legend. He's a living legend with us already. He's the captain. He's a hero. We adore him, and he's hated by all other supporters, because of it's just a symbol of our success. Hans van Aken, a living legend.
Hans, that's brilliant. That was brilliant. I'm actually starting to fall in love with this guy now. I'm loving your passion, my man. I'm loving your passion. Okay, by the way, you were chatting there. Would that be right in suggesting that one more league championship, 2 stars on the badge? Is that correct?
Exactly. We hope to clinch that 2nd star at the end of this season, because obviously the number one in Belgium is Anderlecht. They clinched 35 titles, but they have a history of bribery and corruption. So we don't know how many of these titles were bought and bribed, and it's just the 19 titles we won are pure and honest, and we deserve them.
Very good, very good. That I believe it. An asterisk beside their titles. Right, okay, so fellow midfielder Hugo Veltison, he also seems like a
Vettel's
hugely
Norwegian.
impressive player.
Hmm.
I noticed that the young fullback Joaquin
Hmm.
Size is
Says,
making a
yeah.
name for himself. Beside him again in defence, you've got Brandon Michelle, 31-year-old centre back with over 450 appearances from the club. And then on the other side, tell me about Romeo Vermont, the
Hmm.
German-born Belgium under-21 striker, and also Jutiger Blanche, is that correct? Signed from
Youth club.
Barcelona.
Exactly. He was playing for the B team in the Spanish division, Jutgla. He did well last year as, behind Thiago, who was sold to Brentford. He
Mm-hmm.
was a good stand-in, a sound stand-in. Um, but this year around, he's not performing like
Right.
last year. But Jutgla is still there, yes.
Yeah. So what about the other guys? What about
Mm.
Brandon Michelle
Yeah.
and Veltis?
Brandon Brandon Mechelen is one of our own.
Right.
He was
Michela.
born and bred in the Bruges area. He has been playing for the youth team of Bruges ever since his fifth year. And
Fantastic.
he's also, together with Hans van Aken, a living legend, as he won 6 titles as well. And no Bruges player before clinched 6 titles. So Mechelen and Hans van Aken are the two players who, if we win our 20th championship, they will have 7 titles behind their names. So that is something to look forward to. Um, what changed a lot over the last 3 years, that we professionalized our youth academy, Scott, and we see more and more of these young guys who have been coming through the youth ranks, um, getting a place in our first team. And you
Brilliant.
were talking about Sace on the right, left, on the right backside. We have
Yeah.
Sabbe as well. Mechelen is a product of our academy. We have Sace, as I said. Maxime de Kuiper is also a young guy who came out of our youth system. We have Spileers as well. And we had Arne Engels. Does, does that does that name ring a bell to you, Scott? We had Arne Engels as a youth player. He played for us from 2015 to 2022. Then he
Mm-hmm.
was sold for 100K to
1,000.
Augsburg, and you paid 11 million
Yeah.
for the guy. He's
That's
in midfield, so he's one of our products, our youth products. So enjoy him.
yeah. I love it. I love it. No, it is very interesting because obviously Belgium has this fantastic history recently and in the past of producing these wonderful players.
Mhm.
And you're telling me now that the club has kind of made somewhat a
Professional,
priority to bring these guys because
exactly. That's our
you were talking
lifeline.
earlier on about buying cheap, selling big.
Mhm.
That's exactly what we
That's
do. Exactly.
that's our model.
We're in the
That's
same
yeah,
place. Yeah.
exactly.
So
Yes,
so
yeah.
it's hugely interesting, and it must be a great pride thing. I mean, we're talking there about Van Aken, and we're talking about the boy Bruno and stuff, and that's the heartbeat of your team because they know
Exactly.
what you are, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
so it's
exactly. You have Simon Mignolet, ex-Sunderland, ex-Liverpool, in goal. You have Mechelen at the back. You have Van Aken in the middle, and you need this
Spain.
really the spine of your team, and they know what Bruges is all about.
Mhm.
They know what the emblem
Yeah,
means. They just they live for it, and they will die for it. So that's the backbone of your team, and that's so important to have the central spine there, to yeah to bring everything together, to hold
I love
everything
it, Hans.
together.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Right, okay, we're on the home straight here, Hans. So
Uh-huh.
once again, I'll rattle through this and we can have a wee chat and then we'll talk about the game. Right, so the season so far, domestically, it's not started well. You lost 2-1 to Union in the Super Cup. I watched the highlights earlier. Unlucky, I would say. Unlucky. That was followed by a draw and then 2 defeats in the league. Especially a game where you were 2-0 up. You were 2-0 up
Genk.
against Genk, sorry.
Genk away.
Genk to end up losing 3-2. But you've sorted it out, winning 4, then going on and winning 4 in the bounce, including a 3-0 home derby win over Cercle Bruges. But another stumble in the 4-2 defeat by Ghent, and then 2 draws, albeit 1 against Union. Since that, it's been 3 wins and a draw with Beerschot, with their next game a home tie against St. Tuden on the 23rd of November. So that has you guys sitting in 3rd place, 14 games played, 7 wins, 4 draws, 3 defeats, 23 goals scored, which I think's a big thing. 16 goals conceded, plus 7 goal difference, 25 points on board. 6 points off leader Genk, 1 point off at Antwerp in second, but 2 ahead of Anderlecht. Now in the cup, a 7th round, 6-1 win over Belisia Bilzen of the Belgian 3rd division at home was much to be expected. And Patro Eisden, currently 4th in the 2nd division, hosts the round of 16 in December. Now, in Europe, it's been a tougher and maybe unfair set of results initially. So you had a 3-0 home defeat by Borussia Dortmund, and that was followed by a 1-0 win over Sturm Graz that we spoke about. You had a 3-1 reverse in Milan when Oyedike was red carded in the first half, leading to a somewhat second half collapse. And then you had that amazing 1-0 home win over Aston Villa in the last tie. Now that leaves you guys sitting in 22nd place, 6 points, squeezed between Feyenoord and Atletico Madrid on the same points, but maybe crucially, -3 goal difference. So after this Wednesday's tie, you will finish the campaign with a home tie against Portuguese champion Sporting Club, and then another home tie, this time again Italian champions Juventus, and you finish off with an away trip to Manchester and Manchester City. Oh, so league-wise, it's up and down.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the domestic? We'll come to European in a second. Domestically, what's your thoughts?
Well, domestically, obviously, we had 12 players playing in Europe, in the, what was it, in Germany. So 12 of our team only enjoyed a few weeks holidays after.
Right, okay.
So our competition started too early. So half of the team enjoyed their holidays whilst we had the kickoff of the season, whereas other teams, they had the full squad available 6 weeks ahead of the start of the competition. So that was a minus point.
Right.
That's one thing. And we tend to lose points in our league following a European game or
games,
just or the weekend prior to the European game. And this is just, I believe, something which is motivation. If you, after winning 1-0 at Sturm Graz, and then you have to play for the umpteenth time the minnows of just Sint-Truiden, some players, they cannot motivate themselves anymore for these smaller. And press attention, after you clinched a win away in Champions League, you're the heroes. The whole of the country is shouting, and 3 days later you have to play in a small ground away, and this team is then motivated because they want to show that they can beat a team which 3 days prior won in the Champions League. And also, Scott, to be quite honest, the formula, this format of our competition, we know last year 19 or 18 points behind. These points were halved. 8 or 9, that was playable, and we did it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a nice sprint, normally a competition should be a marathon, but in Belgium you start a marathon and then all of a sudden after 35k you're all more or less at the same time, and then you have to sprint another 7k to the finish. And if you have a very good spell in March,
Yeah,
April,
yeah,
May, you can do it.
of
So,
course.
and that's in between the years
Yeah,
of these
yeah.
players as well. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's the format. I'm not a fan of the format, but won it us titles. We lost titles because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's the league. The cup, we only had one home game
Yeah,
against the lower
yeah.
placed team. On the 3rd of December, we play a championship team, Patro. In Europe, first home game, Champions League, Dortmund home. We dominated 70 minutes. Then they brought in two very quick wingers, and we lost the plot last 20 minutes. And these two high-speed wingers, they made the difference. And we lost 3-0, which was not uh, uh, a just reflection of the
Yeah,
what happened on the field. Then
I
Sturm
agree.
Graz away was an okay game. We played better against the likes of Dortmund, which we lost 3-0 at home. We won there, deserved victory. Then uh, the away game at AC Milan, the San Siro. Uh, we took 4,000 with us.
Brilliant.
We had the best chances in the first 20 minutes. We should always have materialized, capitalized on a few chances there. Just before halftime, 1-0, red carded, like you
Mhm.
said. After coming out at halftime, we scored 10 against 11. But then the logical 3-1,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we got tired. They brought in new players, which made the difference. And then the last of the 4 Champions League games, Villa at home. Uh, they just had lost at Spurs 4-1, Villa, when they came to us, and they didn't bring the strongest selection with them. Onana was on the bench to just Emery left out a few key players, and they were a bit arrogant. They
Yeah.
underestimated us, and with the crowd behind it, it was a silly way to win it because obviously the penalty was was a laugh. But obviously there are rules in football, so you have to apply them and obey them. And anyway, the way we clinched the victory was not very nice and fine, but it was a nice evening. And there we are, 6 out of 12
Mhm.
with an away game at Celtic Park. So all to play for. Yeah, quite looking forward to the game in Glasgow
So
next week.
you can tell you're a professional at this. That segue right into it. I like it. Well done. Just as you say, this coming Wednesday,
Uh,
Club Brugge will visit Glasgow for only the second time in their history, competitive wise. And this will be the first times that Celtic and Club Brugge will meet. Celtic Park, obviously, Wednesday night, kick off with a local time of 8 p.m. So, Club Brugge currently set up in a 4-2-3-1 formation. And from looking through Transfermarkt, generally doesn't deviate from that kind of style. However, today I sat and I watched your highlights. Admittedly, only highlights. I've not been able to see much more. And it's hard to kind of define what style of football you guys play. Now, because of your domestic, I wouldn't say dominance, but generally against a lot of weaker teams, you will have all the ball. You like the things I noticed is you certainly like to play the game within the opposition's box. I noticed that. I noticed you weren't scared about firing big deep crosses in because you've got the big boy Nielsen up top.
mhm.
But
But
it
he's injured, Scott. He's injured.
really,
He won't be playing. That's
I am
that's our weak
I am
that's
delighted
our
to hear
weak
that.
spot. That's our weak spot. Our center forward is injured, so that will be difficult to replace him. And I reckon either Jutgla, the Spanish guy, or the young guy Vermont will
Wow.
substitute him. But he's out with an injury until the until January, we reckon. That's good news
Oh,
for you guys.
that's big news. That's big
Yeah,
news.
yeah,
Right.
he's out with
So,
an
so,
injury.
so
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you three questions here. Then.
Mhm,
So, how could you describe how
mhm,
you would think the Bruges currently play? How
mhm,
do you think they will approach the game
mhm,
in an attacking wise?
mhm,
And if there is any weaknesses,
mhm.
what are they?
Well, actually, the format will be four defenders, three midfielders, three attackers. That's the way we have been playing for the last 3-4 seasons. I would say the danger will come from our wingers. Solis, the Greek guy, on the left hand side, and Skof Olsen, which is a Danish international, at the right side. We are a dominant team.
Mhm,
I watched the entire game of yourselves against Leipzig,
mhm,
and I reckon that your Chinese trio, your Japanese trio, and at your what is it? The
Shervin,
yeah, your Kun.
Nicholas Kuhn.
That's for me the Hatate, Furuhashi, Maeda, this trio, Japanese trio, which they have this speed and this energy, which could cause us problems with the genius of Kuhn. These are the four, to me, to watch out for us.
Mhm,
We will not be attacking naively. Um, uh, we playing away from home in an electric atmosphere because we're all looking forward to your rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone. It will be 3,000 of us will be traveling with
Brilliant.
just
Great.
the away allocation. Um, so we have 6 points out of the 12. You seven? Is that
7.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a huge game. Huge.
as it's a huge game, but as we got a bonus coming out of the Villa game,
Yeah.
we sort of have the feeling a draw would suit us fine. Um, and we should not win. We should not clinch the 3 points. I think we're even when it comes to
Mhm.
value of our teams. You are more the uh, you push you the high pressure of your team might cause us problems, but we can play the same type of football as well. You're not the typical kick and rush. Celtic is high pressure and is high
Uh-huh.
energy. Is so, but the four previous games in Europe have proved that Nicky Hein is on a tactically
Mhm, mhm.
he's quite a genius. He has been analyzing our opponents every time so far and always put a good strategy to counter it. So we might have a tactical game. Brendan Rodgers from your side, and Nicky Hein. Uh, I don't think we have much secrets because of obviously all games are televised nowadays.
Mhm, mhm.
So um, we won't be playing naive. We won't be playing in counterattack. We are a dominant team, and I'm sure that Nicky Hein will come up with a plan to at least not, um, uh, I would say, run into the same problems like Leipzig did, because
Right. Okay.
I
Yeah.
thought they were being a bit naive, attacking, and I think Bruges will be not playing that naively.
Really interesting. Really interesting thoughts here. One thing that I would like to question you about. So I understand that the Aston Villa, when you're writing down results, you it's the same with us. We look at Aston Villa. It's going to be a struggle.
Out of
it's
our
going to be a
league.
struggle, right? So, however, I would have thought that you guys would have looked at us and said, that's our best chance of 3 points away from home. Because no matter what I think of my club, Scottish football is down here. I understand that. It's not nice, but it is. So I would have thought you guys maybe kind of looked at that and went...
Just after the draw, we have been looking at Sturm Graz as a must-win.
Yeah.
And Celtic as a second option, opportunity to clinch the 3 points, to be quite honest with you.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, that's the way it is, because at home, playing the likes of Dortmund, German giant, Juventus, Italian giant, Sporting, Portuguese giant, Villa. Hey, these teams, normally you cannot win, or if you have a very, very good day and they are underestimating you, etc. But so, and City away.
Just write that one off.
Yeah. So yes, to be quite honest with you, Sturm Graz and Celtic, we highlighted them as the places to get some points. But now with the bonus 3 points of Villa, we're more relaxed.
About it.
We're more relaxed about it. And we see it as a challenge, but it's not a must-win. Before, if we would have lost against Villa, it would have been a must-win in our minds. Now we're more relaxed.
Yeah, makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so last hurdle for us. Give me a prediction.
I would love to see a 1-1. I would love to see a 1-1 draw. Okay. That would be, well, obviously you don't know how the game evolves, etc. But we're all looking forward to visiting Edinburgh, because most of us are flying into Edinburgh, taking a train to Glasgow. We're flying in from Amsterdam into Glasgow on a direct basis, but we're all looking forward to the nice weather in Glasgow. We won't be having any umbrellas,
bring your hat,
raincoats. Now we're just really looking forward to have a nice time with you guys, and that the best team may win.
Love it, Hans. Right, before I let you go, Hans, where can people, if they choose, find you on social media, and where can they find the podcast?
Yep. So we're on Spotify. We're on We're on YouTube. It's the Klokke podcast in one word, and you can find us easily, and you can subscribe. Obviously, there's one disadvantage for you guys. It's in Dutch. So the language is for you like Chinese, but anyway, there you can find us. So be welcome to have a peek, a view, or listen to how we do it in Belgium.
Amazing. Well, Hans, Noyelle, thank you very much for taking time out of this evening to speak to me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to yourself. I hope your team gets absolutely pummeled next week. But after that, I hope you go and get that next star. And I hope you qualify for the next round as well. So, Hans, Noyelle, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Scott. Thanks for having me.